You are a photographer and you want to be a professional photographer. You don't know where to start, how to start, and you're all confused. Well, then this video is for you. Hey guys, I'm Saurav. Welcome to the channel. I know it can be a bit overwhelming when you're just getting started with your career and you have no idea how to go about it. Don't worry, we are here to help. Now, what do I mean by we? In this video, I'm going to talk to two professional photographers from different genres who are extremely successful and understand how did they make a living out of their passion and how can you do it too. Our first guest is Sanket Kunthale. He is a professional product photographer, a very good friend of mine. He has been in this field for over 12 years and has worked with a lot of different brands. Our second guest is Ashish Langade. He is a wedding photographer and filmmaker. Ashish is someone who I've always looked up to since the day I got into photography. He has a very unique style and frankly speaking, he is one of the best wedding photographers I know. I'm going to listen to what they have to say along with you. I'm going to note down certain things that I find helpful. Trust me, if you are serious about building a career as a photographer, filmmaker, as a creative person, this video is going to be super helpful. So without wasting any time, let's get started. The first thing I ask them is a question I get very often. Should you join a photography institute? I know it is an investment and you want to get returns out of it. You want to make sure you're not wasting your money and time. Let's see what they have to say.
What I have done, what my path has been is I was in art school, and as per my knowledge and as per my experience, photography is only the self-expression of whatever art you know. Photography is just a medium. So yes, you can learn photography from an institute, but that learning will only include the learning of technicalities, as in how your camera works, how the light works, light is in the studio light work, or what are all the exposure triangles, what is the shutter speed and all those things. Only these things will be taught in photography, photography institutes. So what you really need to learn is the art aspect of photography, as in you need to learn how to use that light. You need to learn how to compose your product shots or compose your landscapes or whatever it is. So basic art knowledge will really help you become a better photographer. Let's say that you have enough time and enough money, and someone from a different background, as in they have not studied art or anything related to photography, and if they instantly get intuition that this is an interesting field and they could do better, so then institutes play a huge role, as in it's like a crash course where within a specific period of time you get to learn A to Z of technical photography, as in how does a camera function and everything. So that's where I think you should consider institutes where you are like you want to have a lot of learning in a specific amount of time.
So if we have a crash course of let's say 3 months or 6 months, that's a good thing. But joining an institute for a year, for a couple of years is I guess that is where you're spending a lot of money and you could have invested that money somewhere else.
I do feel educational background is important. Like it's not just for proving a point. I think you need to have a certain level of education to back yourself. Be it anything, doesn't have to be photography, because like you yourself, now the other people you're talking to, except for Sanket, you will find a lot of people who do not come with a proper photography education, but they do come with a proper education of some sort. And I have come across so many great photographers. I often ask them this thing, and that's what they tell me, that when you have done a proper course, or for example, if you're done an engineering, I think engineers are very street smart, like especially in India. That's how engineering is, that's how the course is. It makes you very street smart. Makes you that it helps you with that jugadu quality, and it really plays a good role in photography, because photography is all last minute decisions. Tell me one last shot that you remember making.
In terms of like memory, I feel it should be the first time I saw the Northern Lights.
So glad that you mentioned auroras, because you can never be prepared for a good shot with auroras in it, because it just happens and you have to be quick on your feet. You have to be quick with your hands. At the same time, you have to run a lot of calculations behind your head. Ki, okay, this is how the frame is going to be, this focal length, that shutter speed, this ISO. I think these kind of qualities are nurtured when you do a proper education. And
Right.
if you do a course or a proper or 2 3 year proper degree in photography, that's only going to benefit you. But that does not mean that people who have not done it can't do well in this field. Everyone with a good intent and some educational background, if they get into this field, they put right amount of effort, they will do well.
I hope you're enjoying the conversation. Before we get into that, I want to talk about something important. If you're a professional photographer or a filmmaker, or you're planning to become one, a must have in 2024 is a good professional website. A place where clients can go to check out your work and understand what your brand is all about. But the problem is, to build a good website, you need to learn how to code. What if there is a place where you just type what you want your website to be about and your website is ready within minutes? That's where the sponsors of today's video comes into the picture, Hostinger. They have an AI website builder option. Let's say I want to make a website where I can showcase my portfolio, I can release some courses, and I can sell my prints as well. I just type it and boom, that is it. It did everything in the background, made separate pages for portfolio, courses, my online store. I literally did not have to do anything. I can further customize it. They have a lot of amazing templates to choose from. One thing I haven't shared with you people is I'm working on a website of my own. In 2024, I don't feel social media is enough. You need something that's unique to you. Now that I have access to Hostinger, I feel I am much more confident about building a website since I don't have to code it, and I'm going to make it live this year. That's a promise. If you want to build a website, you need help with the domain, Hostinger has got you covered. Once you open the link, you have two options to choose from. Depending on your needs, select one of them. If you're just getting started, I would recommend to get the 12-month subscription because you also get a domain free for 1 year. While checking out, don't forget to use the coupon code SAURAV for 10% additional discount. Let's get back to the conversation.
The one pro that I do see in actually doing a photography course is networking. You are always surrounded by people who are like-minded, who have the same agenda and purpose as you, and who want to do the same thing. Also, when you do photography on your own, you don't have someone to constantly discuss things. But when you're always surrounded by people who have the same interest, you always have very healthy conversations going on, like isko kaise karna hai, how do we nail this shot, how do we create this background. It does help, so there are some pros and cons, but it is a mandatory thing that you have a proper educational background of some sort.
The first thing that Sanket says is photography institutes can teach you the technical aspect of it. You can learn them through online websites, videos as well. I'm not sure if you know this, but there's a YouTube channel by the name Saurav Sinha. He makes pretty decent videos. You can check them out too. Okay, promotions apart, what Sanket is trying to say is you should learn the art aspect of photography as well. In order to learn that, you need to execute what you have learned already. For example, let's say today you learn how to use manual mode. You know the basic composition guidelines. Now it is time to go out and execute them. Unless and until you practice them, execute them in real life, that knowledge is of no use. If you're someone who has no knowledge of photography, you're just getting started, you're passionate about it, and you want to learn a lot of things in a limited amount of time, or you want to learn something specific, then joining an institute can be helpful. But the bottom point is you need practical experience. Just joining an institute for the sake of a degree is not going to help you. Ashish had a very interesting perspective towards this. What he says is a photographer needs to have some kind of educational background, not necessarily photography related. And I completely agree to this. I've seen a lot of successful photographers who are doing great in their respective genres and they don't have any formal photography related education, but they do have some kind of educational background. Education does play a very important role. It teaches you how to manage things, it teaches you how to be organized, and most importantly, it teaches you soft skills, which is super important in this particular field. And I'll be focusing on this part a bit later in the video. Another point I really liked is networking. One huge advantage of joining a dedicated institute is building a network. You're surrounded by like minded people, you get to discuss art with them, which unfortunately is not very common. On a regular basis, you don't get to talk about art with the people around you. Maybe you get new clients from your network, you collaborate with other photographers for a bigger project, you learn new things, you share new things. A good network is going to be a game changer for your career. You have learned photography, you're all set to start your career. But now the big question is, which genre should you choose? There is fashion, wedding, product, architecture, a lot of genres. How do you decide then? One of the mistakes I feel would be to choose a genre based on the amount of money that you seem the genre will give you in return. Like, for example, as a photographer, I might think that based on the surrounding, based on the people I have seen that, okay, maybe wedding photography pays off well. So I start doing wedding photography. Now, there is no harm in doing that. But even I am of the same, I come from the same thought is you should try multiple things, at least two to three different genres. Maybe it can be product, let's say wedding, let's say fashion, let's say architecture. Okay, there can be different genres, and unless and until you try them out, you don't know which genre you're good at, number one. Second, which genre you enjoy shooting, right? You might be good at wedding, but you might not enjoy wedding. Even that is something that you need to keep in mind when you're talking about a long time career.
Undoubtedly, it has to be a long term thinking, because it's overall art. It's not a commodity that we sell, or it's not a food industry that we make a product with using same ingredients and people love it and they'll just buy it forever and ever. When you are an art person, it's very important that your mindset remains very healthy. Your mindset and your creativity should not go out of fuel. So that's very important, that it should keep running and it should keep burning. So I think it's always a better to choose a long term thinking, and pursue thing that you are most comfortable with, and not just the thing that makes money for the very short amount of time, very short time.
The point is, if you're doing it only for money, then basically it will get monotonous over a period of time, and now you're doing just for the sake of doing it.
Main thing that happens because of this, that if you are absolutely obsessed and passionate about what you're doing, then this one particular thing, the clients don't like my work, doesn't keep coming up. Or like, if you're very passionate, I don't see this as an issue. Whenever I send my work to clients, and if I'm doing alterations or making changes to it, I do it very passionately. I enjoy that process because it has helped me learn about the people I'm catering to. Versus if you run it as a just a business, this becomes as an extra work for you. You don't look at it as a positive. You look at it as a negative. Ki, haan, yaar, this is going to happen. This client is going to give me so much additional work, and then the interaction is also completely different. Like whenever you let's suppose you're talking to a client, and if you're not worried about this, like whether the client is not going to like my work or not, makes sense. Like you always have that voice in your
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
is the client going to like the work or not. So the interaction is completely different for these two personalities. Like one may go all in, he himself will push the client, do this, do that, let's do this, so we get more better content, we get more better pictures. Versus it could be, nahi, ye nahi kar sakte, we can't do this, there is this one restriction, not do this. So the approach completely changes. So this is how it has been.
Choosing a genre is going to be one of the most important decisions of your career. Money is an important factor to consider, no doubt, but make sure it is not the only factor that you consider while making this decision. If money is the sole reason you get into this field, you won't be able to survive. Couple of reasons for that. One, you will face creative blocks more often, and two, Your work won't improve because you're not motivated enough to put in the extra efforts. If you enjoy shooting a genre, you put X number of years mastering it, you will be already ahead from the majority of the competition and you will make good money as well. Now you have chosen a genre, but as a beginner, how do you start? From where do you start? The problem with the overall job scenario, whether it be photography or a tech industry or anything, is as a fresher, people don't get hired because people need experience. But then for experience, you need to shoot, but you're not getting shoots because you're a fresher. So it's a vicious cycle, right? How does one come out of it?
So there are certain ways. The one better way that I think you should do is, I couldn't do it. One better way that you could do at this point of time is, you should choose someone who can be a good mentor to you. Like if you decide to do a product photography or landscape photography or any genre, just choose one mentor that you think you can learn a lot of things from. Assist them for a certain period of time. Like doctors do, they just graduate and they do their practicing or internship for like 6 months. And so you can do the same way. You can still assist a photographer, your mentor, for like 6 months or a year if you have that amount of time. And then learn the aspects of photography that are not taught in any institute or any art schools, because the most important aspect of photography is how to sell your pictures, even if they are good. Like a good picture will always be appreciated in your college projects on social media, but the main task is how to sell those pictures. When it comes to commercial photography, getting a job or replying to an inquiry, then the creative process starts. The client gives you a mood board, then you just give your thoughts on it, or you just give a counter mood board. You plan all the pre-production, you plan all the props, the casting and lighting and everything that is going to go in the shoot. And then the final day of execution comes where you actually execute the things. So pre-production is something very important that is taught nowhere. That's something that you can learn from a good mentor. That is one thing that can be a first step after being a fresher. Secondly, what you can do is, after you have accumulated all those knowledge, all the things from your mentor, all the things that you learn from the day of the shoot, you can select a brief for yourself, a virtual brief from a virtual client, and you just have to plan the shoot and uh, execute it for your own portfolio. Only such 5 to 6 albums or 5 to 6 portfolios, virtual portfolios, can land you clients as well.
Right.
If you have them published on your Behance, if you have them published on your own personal website, you can
Right.
get an inquiry from a client, and then you can whatever you have learned from your mentor about communicating, about negotiations, you can just apply them here, and that is how you are able to land your first client.
So if you're a beginner, don't wait for an opportunity to come that, okay, my friends getting married, he may hire me and then I'll get a portfolio. My friend's classmate is a good model, I want to shoot her, so I get more. Don't wait for that. Do that. Do find out those opportunities, but take your camera out, go for a walk during sunrise, go for a walk during sunset, and come back and tell me. You will get good pictures. It rarely happens that there is a good sunset happening and you don't get a good picture. It never happens.
Right.
A good light will always give you good pictures. Now, when you do it for more often, you build a style that's good enough to present to any photographer with a good technical knowledge. Once they see your skill, what you have done, they will understand your pros and cons.
Yes.
And then you can actually work on the style that or a genre of photography that you want to work in. Now, the problem why people keep asking this question is they don't have patience for it. They buy a camera, they learn two basic things, and now they want to start working in the war zone. It's a war zone here.
It's a
They
war
want to-
zone.
Yeah, they want to get in, and while they do that, they want to make money, because that's
Yeah.
a common perception now. You buy a camera, you
Hmm.
make you put up some work, and then you start making money. It's not that easy. It's not a long-term solution. It will not help you
Yes.
sustain life.
Finding a good mentor, someone who has been in this field for quite some time, is a great way to learn. Because now you not only get to learn the art aspect of photography, you also get to learn the business aspect of it. How does he or she approach a client? How does he or she talks to the client? And this is where soft skills comes into the picture. As a photographer, there are other skills than photography that you need to learn in order to be successful. Even before you land your first client, you can start developing your portfolio. Maybe let's say you want to be a fashion photographer. Ask some friend of yours to give you company to help you select the outfits and shoot pictures. Build your portfolio. It need not be even the same genre. If you want to get hired as a full-time photographer, what they are going to see is, do you have good knowledge of lighting, good knowledge of composition? There's a set of skills that a good photographer should have irrespective of the genre. Master them, practice them, and build your portfolio. That's how you grow. This was part 1 of the series. I hope it was helpful. In part 2, we are going to discuss about dealing with creative blocks, dealing with competition, how do you work with clients, how do you price your services. Part 2 is going to be super interesting. Before I end the video, thank you Ashish and Sanket for doing this. Thank you Hostager for sponsoring the video. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.